I stayed in, yes. Today we have the privilege and perhaps honor to visit with Erling Olson. He was a prisoner of war in World War II. He lives in Langdon, North Dakota now, and during the early 40s he went into the service and ended up in the Air Force, was an engineer on a B-24, and eventually was shot down, become a prisoner of war, and went through a number of crises, we'll say, during the war and before the war. So, Erling, you can just start out telling us where you come from and your home and your so on and so forth. We want to find out as much as we can about you, and then you tell us about how you got in the service and so on and so forth. So just tell me about the whole story.
Well, I was drafted in 41, and the doctor that gives the pre-examination, he said there's no use sending you down there because you got a bad leg, they'll never pass you. But he said he'd give me a free trip to Minneapolis. So I got to Minneapolis and I was in the infantry for 7 days, and I couldn't stand the marching. So they said, why don't you sign up for the Air Force and you won't have to march. So I did that. And then we went from Minneapolis to Shepherd Field, Texas. And then we took a 9-month course in airplane mechanics there. And then from there we went to Boise, Idaho. And from Boise, Idaho we went to Las Vegas, Nevada for gunnery school. Then we went to Tucson, Arizona. And from Tucson we went to El Paso, and then to Alamogordo. And then we went to Florida, and we come back and went to Pueblo, Colorado. And then from there, we went back to Florida, starting up a new group.
Well, were you part of a crew now, or were you alone in there?
I was alone till I got...
They sent you as an individual to these various schools?
Yeah. And I mean, when we were all done with schooling and all that, then we went and took some more training for like lead crew and stuff like that.
What kind of plane was that?
It was a B-24.
Well, where did you get your crew in the B-24? What station was that at?
We got the B-24 at Topeka, Kansas. Brought new ones in there for us.
And you were an engineer?
Yeah. And,
okay.
And
now I think there was a couple of things that happened in that lead crew, or that crew that you joined.
Yeah.
B-24, starting at Topeka. Could you tell us about that?
Well, we were at Topeka, and first plane we crash landed at midnight. We went through a grove of trees. We just missed a farmhouse.
Well, how come you crash landed? What was the reason?
Well, we ran out of gas, and the gauges didn't work. And the pilot said that it's his fault because he said he knew he didn't have enough gas, you know, to fool around much, but he did go up and buzz his hometown in Iowa for a couple of times, and that made us short, see. So we ran out of gas, and everybody took off, and they left me there to guard the plane.
When you crashed landed, you weren't killed then, or you didn't?
No, all of us got out.
Was that daytime or night?
Night. Middle of the night, yeah. And then I was in hospital then for 2 weeks, and from there I went back and got on another crew, and we flying along, and we went to when we took off, the pilot couldn't get the left wing up.
Where was that at now?
That's Topeka, Kansas.
Yeah.
And he said, what'll I do? And I said, well, I don't know. I said, cut the power on the high one, see if that helps. It didn't, of course. So I went back and looked, and here somebody had taken the safety wire off all the cables and let them just hang, you know.
Control cables?
Yeah. So I went...
run to the back of the plane?
Yeah. So I tightened them up, and then we got it straightened out, and the pilot called in. He says, this plane isn't fit to fly. He says, we don't have any... somebody's monkeyed with the control tables, and his engineer tightened them up some, he said, and we were flying, but he says, the instruments don't work. So he flew got to go, and they said, well, you'll have ground contact all the way to Pueblo, Colorado, and back, so you don't need any instruments. Well, we got to Pueblo and dropped our bombs, and come back, we run into an awful storm, and they said, you climb above this storm. So they tried, and we had no instruments to go by, so I took and hung a pencil up in front. And about that time he said, bail out, and I didn't have a parachute ready, so I had to get one. And
is that at night or day now?
no, it's daytime. And he...
Over Kansas?
Yeah, over cancer. Then he got the plane out of a spin then, see. So then I put my parachute on. I said, I'm not going to horse around with
Was
this.
it kind of a flat spin or a
Yeah.
tail spin? Flat.
No, flat spin.
Yeah.
And the engines were going as full as they could, you know, and it was icing up, and that was peeling off the wings. And we were losing altitude, even though we had full power on. So he said, bail out, and I think I jumped out and said 10, and I broke my tailbone, and I couldn't hardly walk. But
When you hit.
Yeah. But anyhow, we got down to the ground. I thought I'd broke both legs because it was icing, and the chute would be below me, and it was all iced up. But I did manage to get down. And I lay there, and I thought I broke both legs, but I found out I hadn't broke them. So I got up and walked up to a farmhouse, and I left
What happened to your plane now?
It fell down, burnt.
And was anyone in there?
No, they thought there was somebody in there because they seen all this red hydraulic fluids. And so I got over there. I said, no, there's nobody in there. But we got down and left my parachute in this farm step. And I walked out to the road, and a car stopped, picked me up, raining to beat ever, and we drove about 200 feet, and he ran in the ditch and upset that thing.
Upset the car.
So I said it wasn't my day. But anyhow, we went out to where the plane was, and I'd cut my forehead and my nose and my lips and my chin, and I was bleeding, I guess. And the nurse was chasing me all over the 40 acres out there because I was trying to find the Norden bomb site. And of course, that was a precious deal, I guess. And then we...
What about, the nurse was trying to find you to...
Give me a shot.
Yeah.
They thought I was nuts, see.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally...
You had morphine, though? So you had morphine on the planes, didn't you? Or the
Yeah,
nurse
but we
had?
didn't have time to get out.
No.
we had to
But
go.
the nurse had it, of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
And then we took us to a town. We stayed in this town then. And pure agony, you know. And they said, well, we'll call you tomorrow morning. So they called the next morning and said, you go to this other town. It's about 25, 30 miles away. Hire a taxi. So we did that. Then the next day they call again and says, go on down to this other place, you know. And they run us around like that for 5 days. And like
The Air Force did.
Yeah.
From Topeka.
Yeah, Topeka. I mean, out in Kansas, see?
Yeah.
And then they finally sent a plane down to pick us up. And when we went back then, they took each one of us in a little room and interviewed us. Because, you know, they were having so many, a plane a day down there we were losing.
Plane a day?
Yeah. And I mean, I was there 2 months and I was in 2 crashes. But anyhow, they had sent inspectors up from headquarters and wanted to get our story on this plane, see. So we did. I mean, we done them, and then they taped them up and they give us back to us to read. And if there's anything we didn't like in there, we had to take it out. And then they took it and reread them, see. And the pilot and I had the same story. He said, you guys must have been practicing. I said, no, that's just the way I seen it, you know. But then I was in the hospital for another 2 weeks. Finally, I got out of there, and then we went to Pueblo, Colorado.
As a crew?
Yeah, and from Pueblo, then we went back to Topeka, and we got our first B-24H we had nose turret in those.
Yeah.
And then we planed some more, and then we flew up to Presque Isle, Maine. We landed at Presque Isle, Maine.
You were the engineer now on
Yeah,
this crew, lead
yeah.
crew, yeah, going overseas.
Yeah, and we had trouble on the plane, so we landed at Goose Bay, and were there for a day or so till we got the thing fixed. And then from there we flew up to Reykjavik, Iceland. And I didn't have a very good crew to begin with. Because, I mean, the pilot was so nervous that he'd about to shake the paddles off the thing. And the navigator, we'd flown from Florida up to Alamogordo, and he couldn't find landing instructions, and here he's over Albuquerque, 100 and some miles off course. And then we picked up ice, and the pilot wanted to turn on the anti-ice or full blast, but I said, you can't do that because it won't last. We got to Reykjavik, and
That's Reykjavik, Iceland.
yeah, Iceland, and then we stayed there overnight, and then we were supposed to go to Prestwick, Scotland. And the gas truck come along, and he said, you need any gas? And I says, yes, I need an awful lot of gas. And so I put on enough for 8 hours flying. I put on twice as much as they allowed us. And it's supposed to be a 3-hour and 20-minute flight from Reykjavik to Prestwick, Scotland. But anyhow, we took off. I got chewed out good because I had steel and gas, you know. They said you might prevent another crew from going. But anyhow, we got lost. And we flew and we flew and we flew. And,
over the ocean?
Yeah, over the ocean.
North Atlantic?
And finally we got over Ireland, and it said E-I-R-E on the land there. So I put on my parachute because I said, I'm going to jump. I'm not going back out in that ocean, because they were headed straight west again. And I was short of gas, so the radio operator, he broke radio silence, and they picked us up at Scotland and told us which way to fly.
Were you alone then in that ship, that plane?
Yeah, we're all alone.
Yeah.
And everybody else, except the pilot and the navigator, were going to bail out. But then the radio operator broke radio silence, and he sent out a QDM, they call it. I didn't know what it meant. But anyhow, they picked us up in Scotland and told us we're the wrong way. So then we turned, and he says, "Got enough gas to make it?" And I said, "It's going to be awful tough." So we the engines down, you know, and then when it started heating up, I had to give her a little more gas. And when we hit the runway, we'd flown for 7 hours and 55 minutes on a 3-hour and 20-minute flight. And we hit the runway, one engine run out of gas. That's how close we were.
You're pretty darn lucky on that.
Yeah.
Getting, otherwise you'd be in the middle of the ocean there somewhere,
Yeah.
and crashed. No one ever know what happened to you.
Well, we went down to Prestwick, no, Windling, England, where we were stationed at.
As your station during the war?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you flew missions from there?
Yeah.
Over Germany or France or wherever
Yeah.
they assigned.
Yeah, we
Were
did.
you the lead crew?
Yeah.
In your squadron?
Yeah.
You had 4 squadrons there? Did you
Yeah.
or- yeah.
Yeah.
And did you fly, did the lead crew fly almost every mission? Or did you go?
They'd rotate.
They rotate.
They'd
yeah.
rotate, yeah.
So the lead crew on
Be-
one mission would take the lead, will be the lead squadron on that mission. Then the next mission would have another lead crew and another lead squadron.
That's right.
Yeah. So that yeah.
The first raid we went on,
How high did you fly on those missions?
well, sometimes we're up to 28,000 feet, but usually around 22 to 26, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's what we flew too.
Was normal then. And the first mission we went on, the squadron commander, he was a tough character, very tough, you know, and everybody hated him. And first mission we went on, and we rented a whole bunch of fighters, and they come in head on, and we lost 3 airplanes, just like that.
In the group, or in the squadron?
In the squadron, yeah. And I mean, he got shot down
Oh, he did?
over the North Sea, and
Yeah.
never did see him again. And then we went back. We got a different crew then, because I mean the 2 we had weren't very good. But anyhow, they got a different crew, and we had a young pilot by the name of Nicholson. He was very good. And
What is the age of those pilots that were in those planes?
I think he was about 25,
Oh yeah, he was
a little bit older than I
a
was.
little older than the average then.
Yeah. And he was very capable and very cool. You know, he anything he could do anything with that plane. But anyhow, we flew on. I think it was the 5th mission we were on.
What mission number were you shot down on?
On the 5th.
On the 5th. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead and tell us about the 5th.
And I wasn't supposed to fly on that mission. But there was a guy sick, a friend of mine, and he says, "So you go?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll go." We got out to the plane to take off, and the squadron commander was out there, and he says, "Don't go on this mission." He says, "It's a rough one." Well, I said, "The other guy is sick." I said, "He couldn't go." So anyhow, I went, and about 6 hours later, I wished the hell I hadn't, because we got shot down.
Where were you going?
Excuse me, Munster, Germany.
Munster, Germany. Where is
Yeah.
that located compared, say, to Berlin or Frankfurt?
It's west of Berlin and north of Frankfurt.
West of Berlin and
Yeah.
north of Frankfurt.
Yeah.
In the Rhine
Yeah.
River Valley there,
Somewhere there, yeah.
Ruhr Valley?
Yeah,
Pretty heavily defended, wasn't it?
very heavy defended. Yeah, we had fighters, many fighters, and I remember them FW-190s. They were coming at us, and we'd shoot at them, you know, and we'd hit them, but the tracers would bounce off like rubber balls.
They would.
And they had 20 millimeters, you know, so they shot the heck out of us. And then anti-aircraft was very, very heavy. And it hit the pilot up there, took the whole middle pedestal out. We had no controls, no nothing.
Of your ship?
Yeah.
The pilot, that control column.
Yeah, that was all shot out.
It was.
Yeah, so he had no control over the plane at all. So.
Well, the co-pilots were still working, maybe.
No.
It wasn't working either?
It took that center thing out, you know.
Oh, it took a center control. I see.
So there was nothing, wheel would just spin.
Yeah, well, that's what happened to me. A wheel spun too. And
Yeah.
it's just like driving down the highway 60 miles an hour and the steering wheel falls off. You know?
Yeah. I always said, some people are afraid to fly, and I said, well, you don't have to worry. I said, you always come down. But then we bailed out.
How high were you when you bailed out?
22,500.
Yeah, now when that control column, the center of the plane, the center of the cockpit there, was taken out, were the pilot and co-pilot, or you were hurt?
No.
None of you were hurt?
None of us was hurt.
But did it go through the windshield?
Oh, yeah, I took all that out, see.
Must have been terrible. A lot of wind, wasn't there?
Yeah. And then the bottom turret gunner,
Yeah.
he came up and he said, we're supposed to bail out. I said, we didn't hear nothing. Well, as I heard that, he said, bail out. Well, I said, I'm going up front to see what the heck's going on up there.
You'd said that?
Yeah, so I went up front and there was nobody there. Everybody was gone. So then one of the guys got stuck in the window. Air held him there, you know, and pushed him out.
The side windows
Yeah,
in the back?
side window, yeah.
You couldn't get out?
No, so pushed him out. And everybody was out of the plane, and I jumped.
Now, was the plane flying fairly straight or in
Fairly
circles?
circling, you know.
Circling,
Yeah,
round?
yeah.
In a flat
spin.
spin?
Yeah. But then we had holes in the wings, you know, you could crawl through them almost any place.
Yeah.
And gas was leaking out, something terrible. And,
Lucky thing it didn't catch on fire and explode.
Yeah, I had several of them like
What?
that. I had several of those planes like that.
Yeah.
We had one burned up in Utah. The bombardier and the navigator were in the nose, and they were fueling that airplane, and they had these smudge spots. Remember how they used to be a long ways away?
Yeah.
Anyhow, it followed that flame up into the plane, and it burned to death there. Those two guys burned to death in there because they didn't stop and think. All they had to do was step back about 3-4 feet and they'd fall out.
Yeah.
But they tried to battle their way out through the nose, and they didn't make it. But then it's going down. I tried all the...
You're parachuted out now, and then you're going down. What you said? How high were you when parachuted? You say?
22.5.
That's over Munster or in that area.
Yeah, in that area. And I delayed opening my chute till we got close to the ground. In fact, I passed everybody.
Passed everyone going down.
Yeah, and then when I opened my chute, I made a soft landing in a field. Because after the first parachute jump, I decided I should learn a little bit about the parachute.
How to control it.
How to control it, see? Because we never had any schooling on that.
No.
So we did, and they were there, the civilians were there right away. And
On the ground?
on the ground, yeah.
German civilians?
Yeah.
Were they shooting at you or
No,
throwing
they didn't
anything
shoot
at
at me,
you?
but they had a lot of pitchforks, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of our people were pitchforked to death.
Yeah.
And they had a piece of rope, and some had a pickaxe, an axe, or whatever. And I'm sure they were going to hang me.
Yeah.
But the Army come along then.
What about your other crew members now?
Well,
Where were
I didn't see them
Didn't see them?
for quite a while.
No.
But anyhow, they took me into a town then, and they put me in a store window on a display thing there, you know, and then they'd let so many people look at me, and then they'd run them away and let another batch come on this way.
Were you in a store window in town?
Yeah, just like a merchandise.
Yeah.
And then they'd get you up and they'd slap you around real good, you know, and knee you in the stomach a little bit.
What kind of clothing were you wearing?
I had my electric flying suit on and my heavy sheepline clothes on.
Oh, you had the sheep line.
Yeah, and we had a flak vest on too.
Oh, you had the flak vest.
Yeah, and a life preserver.
Did you have that escape kit in your pocket?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't get a chance to escape.
Oh, no. But when did they start? Well, okay, go ahead. You were on display. And
Well, then some lady out there, you know, I'd lay flat on this board, And she felt sorry for me. She went and got a pillow and come back in and put it under my head, see?
Yeah.
But the German officer, he booted her as hard as he could with those big boots they had on. I felt sorry for her, you know, and she felt sorry for me. But there's, I always said it wasn't the German people, it was the leaders.
Yeah.
But then, from there, they chained me in a barn that night. And they had it so I couldn't sit down, so I had to kind of hang there. And then the British bombed the town that night. And the air raid siren was right outside the barn. And every time it would wail out, I'd get scared than heck. I was very, very scared. And then from there,
You were in this barn now. That's the
Yeah.
animal barn.
Yeah. And then he come along a day or so later and went to Frankfurt, Germany. And there they had the interrogation room and the sweat
Interrogation center, yeah.
And
Was that north of Frankfurt there, that one?
yeah, yeah,
About 10 miles north?
yeah, at least that far. Yeah.
You went there in a streetcar or something, or
No,
you walked there? Or?
We went there in a bus.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And we got down there, and then they interrogated you some, and you know, we didn't tell them anything.
No, well, yeah.
And we all had the story that we were either paper hangers or pimps or second story men. They couldn't figure out how come there's so many of them. But then they put you in solitary confinement. And you couldn't stand up and you couldn't lay down. These places were so small and it was dark. And then they'd freeze you one night, and then next night they'd roast you.
Yeah.
And then they'd turn on the bright lights, so bright you couldn't hardly see, you know. And they come along once a day and threw a sandwich in for you, just like a caged animal.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I was there that long, but the rest of my crew said I was there for 21 days.
21 days.
21
That's
days.
a long time for that interrogation.
Oh, yeah.
Most of them were only there for a week or so,
Yeah.
10 days at the most.
Well, the guy next to me in the next cell, he was a Navy pilot, and he was shot down. He was there over a month.
He was.
Yeah, he went crazy.
He did.
Yeah, he went crazy.
Did they interrogate you every day?
Yeah.
Or just every other day? Or?
No, I don't know. Like, you know, you couldn't tell because it was dark.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But anyhow, they brought me in there, and they said to me, "You were briefed on this mission yesterday." And he told me what altitude we were flying at and everything else, what kind of bombs we had on there. He knew everything.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I mean, I can't figure out how he knew all that.
No. Then, did you run into any other crew members at that interrogation center?
No, I didn't meet them till they put us in a railroad boxcar, cattle car.
At Frankfurt?
Yeah.
Oh, that's when you're leaving now.
Yeah, and they nailed the doors shut and everything, so we don't. And there was so crowded you couldn't squat or nothing, and we had no toilets on there. If you had to relieve yourself, you'd try and get to the outside, and not mess everybody up.
Yeah.
And then we finally got to Stalag 17B.
But now that's quite a ways, wasn't it, from Frankfurt? How
Yeah.
many days were you on the train?
I don't 2 or 3.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, my memory is gone on some of that stuff.
Well, of course, it gets kind of. Then, what kind of camp was that you arrived at?
Stalag 17B.
Yeah. Were a lot of people there?
Yeah, there was a lot of people there because there was Russians there, and there was French there was English there was Serbs there.
Did they have the camp divided then?
Yeah.
Americans were in one section and so on and so
Yeah,
forth?
Americans were in one
How
section.
many Americans were there then?
10,000.
10,000?
Yeah,
These were NCOs, most of them, I suppose.
all of them.
All of them were NCOs, yeah.
Because, I mean, we didn't do any work all the time we were there.
No. Say, do you know if did the Air Force ever send privates and airmen over there on planes, or were they all NCOs at the lowest?
We had a paratrooper there. They got lost and they dropped him 120 miles behind the front. So he was in there. And he said he got up to the line every day and he hollered out the password, and the Americans started shooting at him. And here he found out later that he was 1 day behind all the time.
Oh, I see.
But anyhow, he got captured and he was in there, and I think he was a sergeant.
Yeah. He was with you?
Yeah.
In that camp?
He's with me.
Now, what kind of buildings did they have there? Rooms or blocks? Or?
They had just a big room, and the beds were made out of boards. And
How many in the room?
Well,
Or was it just one big room in the barracks?
just one big room, yeah.
Did you sleep on the floor in
Well,
shelves?
there was
Or?
three tiers high. There was,
Was it shelves kind of, or,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
bunks?
well, it was just boarded up, you know. And
Yeah.
your pillow, we had a board sitting on an
Yeah.
angle for that. And food was very bad, very, very bad. And I got a book a guy wrote while he was over there. He later went crazy too.
He did.
But he claims that they found eyeballs in the soup. And you could always tell a new guy when he come in, because when they brought the food in, he'd get sick and he'd sit there and vomit and vomit. But after he was there for a while, he found out he had to eat it.
Yeah.
You know, so it. But we managed. I mean, our facilities were not good. We
What about bathroom facilities?
I was outside, and you weren't allowed to go outside after dark.
No, no.
And I mean, they were horrible. I mean,
Were they open pits or
no, they
trenches?
they had
had a building?
cardboard covers on them, and you had to sit down fast, otherwise the flies wouldn't let you get down.
No.
They were terrible, you know.
Now, what about washing? Did they have sinks and things for washing?
No, they had a big trough you washed in.
They had those big troughs.
Yeah,
now.
and about every 6 weeks they take us up to a place, and they said they were delousing us.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, we always worried about, because they'd have all of us get in there and take all our clothes off, and then a guy would crawl up on the roof and drop
I
some
know-
pellet in there.
I know that was the style.
And
I mean, for
it,
those.
we were
Jewish
scared
people.
every time we went up
Yeah.
there. And you could grow a beard, but they wouldn't let your hair grow long.
No.
So we got the bright idea, we're going to fix that. So we took oleomargarine and put in there and got a little sand and put in. And the first 12 guys they cut, and I was one of the first, they ruined 18 pair of clippers. You know, all they had to do was run us through the shower first,
Yeah.
but they didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So then all they caught after that, they put them in solitary confinement for bread and water for 30 days.
What? How often did they feed you during the day? Once or twice, or a
Well,
bowl, or bread, or they?
They were supposed to feed us 3 times a day, but
Yeah, sure.
mostly just once.
Yeah.
For breakfast, they bring in some hot water, because we didn't have hot water in the building.
No.
And then the Red Cross was to give us some parcels. And I say if it wasn't for the Red Cross, I wouldn't be here today.
No.
Because they were wonderful.
Did they give you some potatoes and turnips or cabbage or anything? the
Oh, we had a
Germans?
lot of cabbage soup.
A lot of cabbage soup.
Yeah, and I mean, when they brought that in, the top would be all covered with worms. You couldn't see the soup.
Oh, I see.
And I mean,
Maggots.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but anyhow, we ate it. I mean,
Yeah.
survived.
To get that once a day?
Yeah, once a day. Sometimes they'd have some potatoes.
Did Germans run the mess hall, or do you run the mess hall?
No, the Germans run the mess hall.
Germans run the mess
Yeah.
Then you went there with a pail or something and got
Oh,
a
we had a big tub.
a big tub.
Yeah.
And that was for the ration for that room or for that block?
For that one end of the barracks.
One end of the barracks.
Yeah. I think there was 240 in the barracks.
Oh, 240.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you'd go up and they give you a spoonful, and if there's anything left, they'd start seconds, you know, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But
Where I was at, they had about 25 in a room, and then they had a pail. Each room got a
pale, huh?
pail, about a half a pail of soup.
Oh, I see.
Then you brought the pail back to the room, of course, then you divided it. Did you have a bowl or something? We had a bowl. Or,
We had we had a tin can we used to eat out of.
oh, yeah, well, I guess that's what we had.
And they spoons they gave us, they broke all the handles up.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, so all we had to grab the spoon with our fingers, and 3 of us had to eat out of the same cup.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, the guy that ate the fastest get the most. And I said, it's just like 3 pigs trying to get done already.
Now, how long were you in that camp?
I was there, well, I suppose I was there about 17 months.
Now, how did the guards treat you? Were there any guards that beat you up, or
Oh,
were
yeah,
good,
yeah.
or bad, or traded, or
Most of them were terrible.
most of them were?
Yeah, well, but we had a guy in there, and he'd come along and he'd say, we used to make those crystal sets, you know, so we'd get some BBC News.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd say, well, tomorrow they're going to search for crystal sets. If you have any, give them to me. So, of course, we were skeptical at first, but no, he was honest. He'd bring them back. Have to
would?
give them 2, 3 cigarettes maybe or something. And then he'd come along and say they're searching for maps
Oh, yeah.
So he said, if you got any, give them to me. And he was a good fella.
Yeah.
He could speak perfect English.
Then you gave him the maps, and then
Yeah.
he'd bring them back after
Yeah,
the
you bring them
search.
back. And then, of course, at the end of the war, we had a big map up on the board, and when you had a string tied around where
Yeah,
all the pins
sure.
where the front was, and they'd come around and look at that. But,
Well, you know more about the war than the Germans did sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But then, see, the Russians were getting close.
Yeah.
Well, I should say, we dug so many tunnels under this one building, they moved the building.
They did.
And then the only tunnel I ever got out, we got outside the fence, and the first guy stuck his head up, and the guard was standing there with his dog and his rifle. So, I mean, the rest of us got back in, but he got caught.
Say, you were mentioning about those, was that at the camp where they had the Russian also?
Yeah, they had Russians.
And you say that the Russian prisoners, they used dogs to practice on there?
They'd train the dogs.
Train dogs, yeah.
They'd get them out of the barracks, and then they'd hit them with a big stick. I know whether
The Russian. They
Yeah.
hit the Russian.
And then they'd sick these dogs on them, and the dogs kill them.
Yeah.
And they cared less about that, I mean, than anything else.
Yeah.
And if you threw a cigarette across to them, and they picked it up, they'd shoot them.
Yeah.
They had no mercy for them.
For the Russians.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, they were treated horribly.
Yeah.
And in fact, we talked to him, you know, and one said that he couldn't understand us being anxious to get home.
Yeah.
And he says, when I get home, he says, I'll be court-martialed. And I don't know how many missions he flew, but there was no set amount over there.
No.
You just flew till you got captured or shot.
Yeah, they flew a lot of fighter.
Yeah.
Stormoviks, those Russians. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, what about you? Were there any other camps around there, such as for labor camps or for women or for
Oh.
French or Czechs or something?
Could be.
Around that area, I mean.
Well,
Some
there-
places, you know, they maybe had a main camp, and then they had the sort of satellite camps within 100 yards there.
Yeah, no, there was none right around there. Where
Right,
we were.
no.
We were right
Now,
at-
where was this camp located, say, compared to Warsaw or Berlin and so on? Or
It was right north of Vienna.
right
Austria.
north of Vienna. Were you in Austria?
I was in Austria,
Yeah.
And
That's in the south. That's quite a way southeast of Berlin, then. 300 miles. Yeah.
that's right.
You were there for how long? You say?
Well, I suppose about 16, 17 months.
What month? You don't remember the month and year you were shot down?
Yeah, November the 5th, 1943.
1943.
Yeah, and I stayed there till the war was over.
Till the war was over. Now, did you march? Did you stay? Now, you left that camp at one
Yeah,
time, didn't you?
we left the camp.
About when? In 45, I suppose.
It was 45. It was in April.
Now, why did they move you?
The
Why did
Russians were coming. See, the Russians were coming,
they- coming from the east.
and they wanted to be captured by the Americans rather than the Russians.
Yeah. That is the Germans and the prisoners and the guards and so on.
Yeah.
Now, did the whole camp move, or just
Yeah.
sections, or
We all moved. Yeah,
how was that organized, or how did you move out?
they had
How many men did you have there?
they had so many in a group.
Yeah, how many men were there all together in the camp at one time? You say
Oh.
10,000?
Oh yeah, more than that really.
And how would they move out in sections of 100 or 500? 500.
500, yeah.
In groups of 500.
Yeah.
What, you just march down the road towards the
Yeah.
west
Marched down the road, yeah.
with guards?
With guards, yeah. And I used to trade. We had a government set up in there, you know. Like we had a commander and all this and
The
that.
Americans did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this old guard, he could speak a little bit of English.
German guard.
Yeah. And I said to him one day, I said, how come you're in the army? Well, he says, they come along and say, you're in the army. He says, I tell them I'm too old. And they said, well, if you're too old to fight for the fatherland, you might as well die.
Yeah.
So here I am, he says. And I'd give him 3, 4 cigarettes for a slice of bread, you know.
Sure.
So then some of the people in the camp got jealous, and they're going to have a trial and court-martial us.
Court-martial you guys,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
him?
Court-martial us for doing,
For trading with,
Trade-
oh, I see,
trade
yeah,
Germans.
sure.
and of course our defense was that we were buying the food off them, and
A livelihood,
yeah, and I mean, it was hurting them as much as was us.
sure.
So I mean, they finally decided everybody could trade. And then,
They let all the Americans trade whatever they could.
and then the price went up terribly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
You mean cigarettes or whatever
cigarettes.
it
Yeah.
was?
Cigarettes was our means of exchange there.
Sure.
Yeah.
How did the Germans treat you on these marches? Now, it was winter, wasn't it, when you were marching?
No, April. It was snow on the ground. Yeah.
Snow.
Yeah. And see, in the barracks we had no heat in the barracks the last year.
No, no.
And we had to go out for roll call twice a day.
Yeah.
And my feet froze so bad they swelled up and bled all winter.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course we left on that march and I thought I'll never make it.
No.
But you know, I knew how to knit. So these guys get
How in the world did you learn how to knit anyway?
Mother taught me. And so the guys get these sweaters, you know, and the sleeves that hang about a foot below their arm.
Yeah.
So I take and I tear that up and knit socks for the guys.
You?
Yeah. And a lot of them claim that that's what helped them.
Well, sure. I mean, anything would help your feet.
Because we had to wear these thongs, you know, and you go out in the snow and their feet would be always wet and there was no place to dry them out on.
Well, your GI shoes, you didn't. Well, of course, you didn't have those.
No, all I had was them electric boots, you know, and the big sheepline ones, but they took them away from us.
Sure. Yeah, they were government. A lot of times they took the government issue stuff away from you.
Yeah. Well, they even took personal stuff. They come on watch
yeah.
and stuff like that too, you know.
You know, the only thing they didn't take from me, they took everything. Of course, I had 4 cough drops, and they thought it was medicine. They thought I was sick. So
Is that right?
so I got to keep those. But they smelled them. They passed them all around to everybody, and they all smelled them, and they thought, oh, that guy is sick. There's some kind of medicine he's taking.
Did you have doctors in your camp then?
What?
Have any doctors in your camp?
Well, I could say yes and no. We had a doctor, but you know, I never. First of all, I never saw him.
Oh.
It was a big camp, and then of course there's nothing to. The only thing they had was aspirin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing else. I don't know. They might have had a few bandages and maybe some aspirin, but that's, you know, there was no medical facilities were almost nil.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it was in our camp too.
Yeah. There was one thing though. Well, I don't think they didn't have a hospital or anything, but they had a guardhouse there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did something wrong, you know, they threw you in the guardhouse.
Yeah.
And in the guardhouse, they gave you a little better food.
Well, they did, huh?
So there's a long line trying to get into the guardhouse. See, now the Germans thought the guardhouse was real bad. You know, they claimed that's the worst punishment you can get. But for the Americans, it was great because, of course, you didn't do anything, but you got a little better food in the guardhouse.
Oh, I see. Well, ours was, you got caught doing anything, it's 30 days solitary bread and water.
Yeah, ours was about, I think ours was about 10 days, but they had a long list. I mean, they had 200-300 guys always waiting to get in the guardhouse. So guardhouse was small, maybe he had about 20 people.
Oh, I
so
see.
It's kind of a joke, you know.
We, 2 guys got the bright idea once they were had a scheme to escape, see. So they got a hold of a long tape someplace. And they were measuring this camp and they were measuring this compound and that compound and so on. And of course they watched them all the time, you know, and then they'd show them the figures they had and this and that, and they'd look at them. And thought,
the Germans?
Yeah.
Showed to the Germans.
Yeah, and so they thought they're doing pretty good. So they finally got around where they had everything measured. But then they supposed to measure out the gate so far, you know. So they opened the gate and let them out, and they were measuring all right. But when they got to the curve in the road, they didn't turn. They took off running, because if they got another 500 feet, they'd have been over the bank, and they wouldn't caught them. But they caught them and got them back in again.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever escaped out of there.
They never escaped from ours either. I heard some guys said that they did escape from Stalag Luft one, but perhaps more imagination than fact.
Yeah.
I mean, so what if you did? You know, we were surrounded by water. We were, and no place to go.
Well, they told us if we got out and going to Switzerland, don't turn yourself in until you were quite a ways in, because they'd turn you back to the Germans.
Sure.
Because the Germans would pay more money for you than the Americans would.
Yeah. Say, now getting back to this march, you started, say, in groups of 500 from this camp.
Yeah.
And then you were marching west.
Yeah.
How many miles would you march, say, in a day?
I don't know. That varied, you know.
5 miles?
Because there's, no, more than that.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
The,
I think at least we'd march 10 or more.
yeah. And then where would you sleep or rest?
On the ground.
On the ground.
Yeah. Or
Kind of cold, wasn't it?
in the barracks. Yeah, it's cold, very cold.
Well, there was no barracks, really, was there? A barn?
No,
Or a building?
barn or something like that once.
Yeah.
Once we were in an aluminum factory, stayed there overnight, and the guys got that running. But we finally got there, and then we lived in a forest, a big forest, no shelter, no nothing, see.
In the woods?
Yeah, and
That group of 500?
yeah, well, all of them, more than that.
Oh, more.
Because the Russians were in there too.
Oh.
And well, every guys would get limbs from the evergreens, you know, and they'd make a fire, and the smoke make your eyeballs green. It was thick, you couldn't hardly blink. But then we lived there, and
You stayed several days or
oh yeah, weeks.
weeks?
And then we Our toilet there, we just dug a hole and put a pole on each side, and some of the guys would pass out and fall in. And to get them out, then you had to carry water from some river, and that was about a half a mile away. But we finally survived. And then one day, a captain come up there, and he was in a jeep, and he said, "You guys are free men." Then he took off again, and the guard stayed on and everything else, you know.
Everything stayed just the same.
Yeah, but in the meantime, then one guy got out, or talked to her. I was French or somebody, and they went and told the Americans that they better shut down. They were getting ready to shell it, because all this movement they'd seen, you know, they thought that we were Russians or
Sure.
American, or not Americans, we were Germans.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah.
So they were getting ready to shell us, but we got that stopped in time. And so it.
Well, there were a lot of prisoners of war killed on those marches.
Oh
weren't
yeah,
there?
there were a lot of people killed by their own too.
What about what kind of food and water did you have on this trip now? How many days did you march?
I think it was 18.
18 days.
Yeah, and we'd drink out of the sloughs or anything we get hold of, and then, you know, like, we'd steal anything we could get.
Yeah, sure.
And the guy, I remember this poor farmer was planting potatoes, and he was down at the other end. And the time we went by, he didn't have a potato left to plant. And then one night we stayed in a barn, and they had a bunch of chickens. And finally, he got only one chicken left, so they put a guard on that one chicken. And we swiped the pig one night, ate him. But food was, I got to where I could eat anything.
How much did you weigh when you were shot down, you figure about?
Right around 190, 200 pounds.
How much did you weigh when you got through with that, when you got liberated? Or
140.
140.
Yeah. And I was one of the better ones. We'd gamble for food all the time.
Yeah. You had cards or?
Cards and dice. We had a floating dice table, you know, we come around.
Yeah.
And we'd always play for food and that, and that's the only time I ever been lucky at dice or cards.
I see.
And I won my share. I had big boxes of cheese over there and this and that. And I'd give it away to the guys, you know.
Sure.
But see, when you got those Red Cross parcels, the Germans would take their bayonet and poke holes through it right through it.
Sure, yeah.
So they didn't want, well, they didn't want you to take it and break out and survive,
Yeah.
see. So then we finally got out of there. Well, the first night they said we were free. The Russians run out and they got a bunch of horses and cows. And they gave us the cows because the horses were bigger.
Yeah.
And they'd shoot them and they'd build a big bonfire of them. They didn't take the hide off or didn't clean it or nothing. They just ate. I think there was 100 and some that died the first night from overeating.
Well, what you mean, the horses or the cows?
We ate the cows,
Yeah.
but we cooked ours.
Well, how did you say the Russians? What did you say? Go again about that
Well,
big bonfire. What did you-
first night we were free.
Yeah.
They went out and got some horses and some cows.
Yeah. Who
And
did? The prisoners?
Russians did.
Oh, the
Russian prisoners.
Okay.
And of course they had less food than we did. But
Yeah.
anyhow, they gave us the cows because the horses were bigger.
Yeah.
And then they kill it and build a bonfire over it. And they didn't skin it or take the hide off or any of that stuff.
Take the insides out?
No, heck no.
They just laid the horse on the fire.
Just laid it down, yeah. And the water was, we had to go down, I suppose about half a mile or more for water. And they used to go down there for water, and they were so weak that they couldn't climb up the hill. They'd die, a lot of them right there.
The Russians.
Yeah, Russians, yeah. I mean, no, they were
Well, how would they eat this horse then? Would just roast it? Would that sort of be roasted or
Yeah.
cooked or whatever you going to call it?
Outside was cooked about a little bit, you know, but otherwise they didn't wait. They were just hungry. They were just like
They
animals.
just cut, yeah, they cut
Yeah.
the meat, cut
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's always somebody had a knife or something, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And we used to build bonfires. And
What about those cows now that you come into possession? How did you handle that?
we'd kill them and,
Kill 'em.
skin them
Yeah.
and clean out the inside, you know.
And then we have, do you roast them or boil them or dry?
We had a bonfire, we'd roast them over there. We'd take a stick and stick them on, roast it.
Work out pretty good?
Pretty well. You never got done, you know, but
No.
you could eat it.
Yeah. This was the cattle now. Yeah.
And I don't know, we stayed there about a week or more after we
What about pigs? Did they give you any pigs?
No, we haven't got any pigs.
Just the horses.
Just the horses, yeah.
And yeah.
But anyhow, should tell you about this guard in there. When I asked him, you know, how he come back then after a while, see, and he said, how come you're here? Well, I said, I was drafted. He says, see, he says, you're no better off than we are. He says, all we got wrong is the wrong leader.
Yeah.
You know, and I could see it. I could see his point.
Yeah, sure.
Because I could stop, but they were horrible.
Oh, yeah.
And we marched along the road. We were outside of Mauthausen for 2 days. And they had orders to run us in there. But then they brought along 5,000 Jews and they run them instead. And we walked along that mile or two where they were, and there was over a dozen dead ones laying there. They wouldn't even bother with kicking or killing them. They'd kick them in the head with their big boots or something, you know.
The Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were treated terrible.
Yeah. Now, when the war was over, then you had this here little food or these cattle. What happened then? Where did you move on someplace or go someplace?
No, the army came in then, of course, and they brought food and that.
And transportation for you.
Yeah, and transportation, and they took us to Camp Lucky Strike.
Yeah. That's south. That's about over outside of La Havre.
Yeah, La Havre, yeah.
Had about I don't know. I was there too. They had about. They told me when I was there they had about 70,000 people there, prisoners of war.
Oh,
They
I
had
wouldn't
tents
have-
for as far as you could see.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you got, of course, you got food there and so on.
Yeah, you got food there, but they
clothing.
wouldn't give us much.
No.
They'd run us through the mess hall, and some of the guys were so handy they could steal one of these big cans of jam or something like that, you know. But they wouldn't let us eat it, see, and they give us what they wanted us to have,
Yeah.
and then we'd go throw it up, you know. And everybody was vomiting. I mean, they
Yeah, I know. I was
couldn't
sick
stand
there
anything.
too. Yeah. Then they deloused you and gave you new clothing and washed you and.
No, they did that, and we were in the mess hall, or not in the mess hall, standing in line, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And all of a sudden, heard guys holler attention, you know. So we stood at attention, and about 5 people back of me. Here was General Eisenhower.
I see.
So everybody fell out, and he said, "No, as you were." He says, "Take my turn." So we got sitting at the table, and he was not right across me, but just next, you know.
General Eisenhower.
Yeah, and he was common
Mess
as
hall,
could,
yeah.
common as could be.
Yeah.
And then he got up and he says, "Anybody have any gripes?" And this one guy got up and he said, "Well, you can't get close at us." Well, he said, and after he says, "When I get done eating," he says, "you guys come and see me," he says. And he took them over there, and I'll tell you, there was guys trying on shoes and everything else. One guy wore a 28-inch waist, and they give him a 38, you know, things like that. They were just doing it to be mean. Huh?
Yeah.
But we got fitted out. And then he asked, "What's next thing's wrong?" "Well, getting home." So it took us a while to get home.
Yeah. Yeah. Where'd you go then when you got home? Where did you
Well-
go on a ship or a plane?
Yeah,
or?
we took a ship.
Ship.
It took us 6 days, I think.
Yeah.
And then from there we,
Was that sort of a troop transport
yeah,
ship? or
yeah.
wasn't it?
One of them Kaisers.
Oh, yeah.
And the beds were 5 high, you know.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And
Yeah, no.
narrow alley in between. And some of them got seasick, and I was in the middle, and I hope the guys above me didn't get seasick. But then we got there to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And there we, first thing I did was go to the PX and buy a whole pie and a pint of ice cream and put on top of it.
I see.
And of course I didn't eat much of it, and then I got sick.
I see.
And then from there we went on to Minneapolis.
Fort Snelling.
Yeah. And then
Then you were given some money and
given some money, and I was given a 60-day
Leave.
delay en route to get to Santa
Yeah.
Monica, California.
yeah.
And my brother was on the same train. We didn't know it till years later.
Was he in the war too?
He was in the war, yeah. I had 2 brothers in the war.
Oh.
And one was a Marine and the other one was in the infantry. And he come through all of Africa and all up through Italy and through there, you know. And he knew there was prisoners of war on that train, but he said he stood and watched us, but I guess he didn't recognize me.
No.
And see, then we got, from there we went home, and my dad was in town waiting for him to come, and here I come.
I see.
So that was
In
quite
Langdon now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quite a surprise to him.
Took the Great Northern from Grand Forks out to Larimore and went north there. And
Yeah,
then Grand
yeah.
Strike,
And we stayed home then, and then I went to, I made my reservations right away to go out to Santa Monica.
On the train?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At Dakota, see, 'cause
Oh, yeah, yeah, sure.
so I got to Dakota and got on the train and got to Devil's Lake. This young lady got on and she says, "You have the upper berth?" I says, "No, ma'am, I have the lower berth." So she showed me her ticket and I showed her mine. She said, we have the same berth. Then the conductor come along and asked for tickets. She says, we got the same berth. Oh, that's all right, he says. She says, yeah, but we're not married. I won't say a word, he says. Poor lady. But I give her the bed, and then there was one across that was empty.
Yeah.
And this happened 3 times on the way out. So then we got out there and stayed out there for, I don't know how long. Then we went to Denver and got discharged.
Lowry Field?
Lowry Field, yeah. And there I got in rail transportation. So my job was to go out and find how many cars they had and sleepers and this and that. Then the guys would make up the tickets. They'd always do that. They put some officer's wife in with a sergeant, you know. But they'd always leave a bed empty. Someone really got mad. One of the officers mad, he was going to fight everybody there.
Now, how long did you stay at Lowry then?
I imagined a couple of months.
I see.
Yeah.
Then they discharged you?
Yeah, I was discharged on October the 7th,
Yeah.
1995.
Yeah. How's the government treated you since you were
Well,
discharged?
I can't really complain because, I mean, but you see, I never went to the VA at all. I mean, and one time the DAV was in there and they said, isn't there any veterans in this town? I said, yeah. I said, I'm a veteran. Well, he says, anything unusual happened to you? Well, I said, I was prisoner of war.
Yeah.
And said, when were you in there for your last checkup? I said, I never was in there. So they sent me down, and I got all my records out of Grand Forks and Langdon there. And see, I had a nervous condition. I'd be working away, and all of a sudden I'd break out and sweat, and it'd just run off me, and my stomach would cramp. So they took me down there, and then they gave me 30% disability.
The VA did?
Yeah, and then called me in for that prisoner of war exam, you know. They put me in the hospital.
Yeah.
And after that, they gave me 60%.
I see, yeah.
But they claim it's post-traumatic stress.
I see.
And I don't know, I still have troubles with it. I still have trouble.
Now, you worked for the Standard Oil Company, did you?
Yeah.
And you were a bulk dealer?
Bulk
truck
agent,
driver?
yeah.
Bulk dealer, yeah.
Yeah,
Out of Langdon.
out of Langdon, yeah.
You had pretty big territory?
Yeah.
You worked there, that is your main job then after the war?
Yeah, well, I worked as a mechanic for a while at the garage. And then I went to the implement and worked as a mechanic.
Yeah.
Then we hauled mail for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'd Mobile come up and hired me.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to the guy that was in there and I said, how come you're quitting the oil business? And he said, I have no intention of quitting the oil business. And I said, well, God, they got me hired. He said, they can't have. So anyhow, I called them and I said, forget it. They said, well, we'll come up there. So they come up again and they said everything was all set, you know. Shucks, here they hadn't done anything. But then Standard come up and offered me that jobbership, and that was a better jobbership than the Mobile was, see.
Yeah.
So I took that over.
How do you feel the VA has treated you since you got out?
Well,
pretty good?
I was going to tell you a story about that. There was 6 of us guys up there had prostate cancer at the same time.
Oh.
Excuse me. And they all went to Rochester. In fact, some went to Mexico and California.
Well, when is that? When did that incident occur? When there was 6 had prostate cancer?
Well, that's about 10, 12 years ago.
Was that when you went to the VA for your examination?
Yeah, yeah. I went to the VA for examination, see, and they found a cyst on my kidney.
Yeah.
And then they called me back, and they done this ream job, and everything they took out was fast-growing cancer. So then they called me back in again, and they done what they call a radical prostatectomy, and took out all that.
Yeah.
And the other guys, well then, I was ready to go home, and these doctors come, and there was 3 of them. There was two Seiferts and a Strinden. They all have their practice in Fargo. And they said, you can go home. He says, your prostate's a little bit large, but don't worry about it. So then they brought in 2 students. And one checked it, and then he asked him what he thought of it, and he said, well, he says, I agree with that, he says. Then they asked the other one. And he said, well, he says, yeah, but he says, you know, looking at his record here, he's got a cyst on his kidney. He says, maybe we better do some more checking. Well, they said, what do you want to do? Well, he says, let's have him go and void as much as he can. And then he says, we'll fill it up, and then we'll drain it. And I was only getting rid of 40% of my urine, see. So then they come back there and they done this ream job, and they found out I had cancer. But Then I went home, went back again and had all this other surgery done and was successful.
Yeah. How do you feel now?
Well, I still have cancer. I got cancer of the bladder now. That's
Oh, yeah.
my second go-around on this
Oh,
time.
yeah, yeah.
But I also had a gangrene of the gallbladder. That about killed me.
Yeah, gee, yeah. Did you get a license plate like this?
Yeah, I got, my number's 10.
10, yeah.
I always say the POW stands for People on Welfare.
Now, how do you feel the state and the VA has treated you then fairly since
Well, no, on this other deal I was telling you about, this cancer,
Yeah.
I'm the only one living.
Oh,
All the others are dead.
The others did. Well,
And they kind of made a joke out of me going to the Veterans Hospital. They said, go to that horse hospital, but
Yeah.
they were good for me.
Yeah.
And I was down there and then my legs turned blood red, so they sent me to Minneapolis and they put a pacemaker on them. And that cured it.
Yeah,
But then it got going so fast that I had to go back down there again.
Yeah.
They gave me some medicine. I took that for 2 months and it didn't help. I went back down there. It's going 180 beats a minute. So then they gave me electric shock. And they finally got it controlled down.
I see.
So they've been good to me.
Yeah. How's the state has treated you fairly too?
Yeah,
Far as you know?
they give us a license plate for $5. I said it went up 500% because I used to get it for nothing. And you can buy a new car without sales tax.
What, anything you want to say now? We're just kind of finishing up here on the little visit, and anything you want to say that I haven't covered or you haven't covered or?
It's pretty much all of it.
What?
That's pretty much all of it, I think.
You figure,
I mean,
you feel kind of satisfied that
I've had 2 knees put in at the vet's hospital. I've had a pacemaker put in. And they over-medicated me and I passed out and fell down the steps.
Oh, gee.
And I was knocked out for quite a while there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they've taken care of me.
Yeah. Well, that's
Good.
nice, yeah. At no cost.
No. Well, they're cutting out a lot of things now.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, of course, that's, yeah.
Just like diabetes, you used to furnish me with all that stuff. Now they don't.
Yeah.
And you got to be insulin dependent before you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a telegram now that, what did that telegram say that when they were?
It said I was missing in action.
Yeah.
And
Your folks got that?
yeah.
How long did they get that after you were shot down? You don't remember?
Oh, I don't remember. I think the date is on there someplace.
Yeah, month or so, I suppose, yeah.
And then they never got the other one for almost a year, I guess.
That you were a prisoner of war? Yeah.
And they could, they
Right
sent
to
this to her and she could buy
Certain things.
6 cartons of cigarettes
Yeah,
every other month and send to us.
yeah,
I mean, she sent them all, you know,
yeah.
never got them.
No.
And she couldn't figure out why I wanted cigarettes because I didn't smoke.
Yeah.
But I started smoking about the last 2-3 months in prison camp
Yeah,
because I was shook up bad.
yeah. What, then they sent you a telegram, of course, at the end of the war, too, I suppose, that you've been liberated or coming
Yeah,
home. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that, we had a priest in prison camp.
Oh, I see.
And he'd hold services for everybody, you know.
I see, yeah.
And he always used to, well, all of us go up except the Jews wouldn't go. They did.
Yeah.
He held a service for them, and he was a little red-headed Irishman.
Oh,
And you know, we had always had discussions in camp.
yeah, sure.
A bunch of us get together and be maybe 6, 8 in one group,
Yeah.
and same in the other. And he'd always come on and he'd listen to those, see, and then he'd side in with one side.
Yeah.
So he's with our side, you know, for a long time. And one morning he come back and he says, you know, I done some studying on this last night. He said, you guys are wrong. Boy, I got mad, see. I said, you're just like the wind. One day you blow from the north and the next day from the south. And he kind of snickered and I said, it ain't funny. I said, I'm mad. Well, just a minute, he says, let me tell you what I'm doing. He says, now, he says, you're thinking, how can I get even with that so-and-so? He says, so you're thinking on that. And he says, if I can keep your mind off the conditions in this camp, you'll get out of here a lot better person. And he said, I can show you the guys ain't going to make it. They've just given up. They sit up there and just sit there day after day. Yeah. You know, I think he was right.
Were there many guys that died when you were with you? The kind
Oh,
of...
there was, yeah, quite a few, you know.
Yeah. In my crew, there was a minister on our crew, a navigator. You know,
Oh.
But that's another story.
Yeah.
Worked
No,
out well.
all our crew got out, got home.
Have you ever had a reunion with your crew?
We had a, no, not with the crews.
No.
But last year, we had a 50-year reunion of our prison camp
Oh, yeah.
at Branson, Missouri.
Oh, I see.
And there were 650 of us there.
650?
Yeah. And I run into some guys I hadn't,
That's from that camp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I run across some guys I hadn't seen for
No.
50 some years.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
kind of
that's
interesting.
pretty nice, yeah. Well, I think you did a real good job here, Erling, in telling your story, and glad to hear it. And I know that your children or grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they'll appreciate this, you know. Maybe not tomorrow, but I mean, years down the road, it's pretty nice to be able to
Yeah, they
take advantage of these facilities here at the university. And
it's very nice of them to do that.
that's right, nice of the university. I mean, this is several guys here taking time off and taking time and
To do that,
got
yeah.
all kinds of, they got $1 million worth of equipment here that they're showing us and taking our picture with, so.
Yeah, our daughter graduated from here, UND.
Oh, she did,
She's
yeah.
a chemical engineer.
Yeah, oh.
So,
Yeah, I graduated from here too, but it's 54 years ago, so.
54 years ago.
Yeah, I think they've forgotten me about me. Yeah. Well, thanks an awful lot, Erling.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say, but thank you again. And I know the university thanks you, and all these people around here, they thank you for telling your story, because it's interesting. See, every prisoner of war's got a different story.
Oh, yeah. No two are alike.
No two are alike, yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes they say, well, those prisoners of war, they were brave or something like that.
No.
Most of us were lucky. See, that's
Some people call us cowards. Yeah, like, you know, I said, why didn't you try to escape? I says, good Lord, we tried. But I said, when I hit the ground, there was about 15 guys there. I said, what could you do?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we didn't have shoes to run in or anything like
No.
that, so we just had to give up.
No, I think most of the prisoners, they were Americans. They were, you know, they're lucky to be here today.
Yeah, very
About, I
lucky.
suppose about half of those guys that flew or that shot down, never heard of, or
They say
disappeared.
only one third survived.
Yeah, the war.
Out of-
yeah.
out of that.
Well, of the flyers, that's
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
1/3. That's correct, yeah.
Because is it 58,000 that unaccounted from World War II?
Something like that. There's an awful lot. And a lot of those are airmen, of course.
Yeah,
an
and
awful lot. Most of them.
8,000 from Korean War.
Yep.
And there's 2,100 from Vietnam War. That,
Yeah, they get in the war. They get lost. You know, they just.
Yeah. yeah, that's why. But this pilot of mine, you know, that called me up, he'd looked all over for me. He went
Yeah.
to the War Department and all over.
Yeah.
And then he was in Kansas City. I used to be in the 2nd Air Division. Now I still am.
Oh yeah.
He seen my list, my name on a roster there, and
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
like to call me up.
Yeah.
We met him. Then he come up to. He was in Crookston taking a computer course,
Oh.
and he called and wondered if we could get together.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. I said, we got to come to Grand Forks on such and such a day. Well, he says, we'll meet you there. We'll come further too if we have to. And I says, no, meet you in Grand Forks. And we talked for about 3 hours there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Erling.
Yeah.
You have a good trip
Thank you.
back home now. And glad that your wife could be here and listen to us. And
Listen to all this.
what? So I want to thank the university again.
Yeah, thank you.
Did ever say hello? Or maybe tonight I hold him tight when the moonbeams shine. My dreams are getting better